And then when I had my visit to Kenya, we were, I'm going to say, influenced to sponsor a second student who was a daughter, it was a young woman whose parents had both been killed and was living with their uncle, who had 14 children that were living in his care. And she was very bright and determined. And so while we were there, we took on a second student, and we've had 2 students that we sponsored ever since. And Dominic went to university, so we continued our sponsorship through him in university, and then he graduated. He just sent me a wonderful note about his job as a policeman, as well as his wife and baby with pictures. And so again, just interested in some of the jobs that those who are working are doing. So go ahead and put that into chat. And you'll see that, you know, many have gone on to good jobs. I know that I haven't seen Emmanuel yet. So first line of defense. So I knew that Emmanuel, I believe your degree was in pharmacy, correct, right? So you were the first to graduate from university in the group. So take a look at what others are putting into the chat. And then the next thing I'd like to know about you are, what are your key goals? So if you think about what's important to you and what are the key goals, if you were to pick, you know, 1 or 2 most important goals for you in your life right now, what would those be? And when you're coming up with a goal, you want it to be, what's the outcome you're trying to achieve by when? So I think about Rinda, and you'll notice this picture of her and Emmanuel when we were there in Kenya in 2010. And she doesn't look any older than she did 10 years ago. I have less hair and more weight and look a lot older. She looks the same. So does Brent, though. It's the same. But when you think about her goals for Kenya Keys, and the goals to not only, you know, sponsor a certain number of students each year, but to also, you know, do things for the community, as like creating the library, building classrooms and other things. You know, what are some of your specific goals that you have? And go ahead and put those into chat as well. I'd love for you to share those. And make sure that you are being specific. When it comes to goal setting, some of the research that's important is that number 1, that we are specific, that we put a date to them. So when do we want to achieve it by? But also that we write them down and we refer to them often. So what I do with my goals is every Sunday morning, I take about 30 minutes of time to I pray, I kind of orient myself with some scripture study, and then I review what I have as a mission statement for me, and then what are the key goals I'm working on right now. And then I think, what do I need to do this week that's going to get me closer to those goals? What's going to be my focus this week to get me closer to those key goals that I have? So again, I would love for you to share some of those goals that you might have in the chat box. Because the other thing that's interesting about goal setting is when we share them socially with our close friends and colleagues, we are again more likely to achieve them. So thank you, Stephen, for sharing that. So a key goal is to accomplish studies and secure a job. I'd love to see some from others as well as they come in. It's also, and when you think about being specific, I remember, and Joseph and Rinda, forgive me if I don't get the story 100% correct, but I'm thinking about Joseph's example of when Rinda was there working for another nonprofit and helping out in the village, and Joseph came to her directly and said, "This is wonderful, but we really need help getting our students into high school. And could you go back to the United States and help us to get some sponsors to get these students into high school?" And as I remember Rinda telling the story, again, I probably won't get it 100% correct, is that, you know, she was a little overwhelmed by that request, but Joseph was very specific. And so when you set your goals, you need to be that level of specific. And she went home and she started socializing that with some of her friends and family and people in the community, and look where they are today, how many Hundreds of students have been sponsored over the years since that first meeting between Joseph and Rinda, and the difference that one specific request makes. So think about, when you have your goals and you need help with those goals. Joseph could not do that on his own. He needed help, and he was very open and transparent in sharing where he was, what he needed, and did it in a very specific way. He didn't, he made it hard for Rinda to say no in that kind of response. The next thing I'd like to know is, what are some of the challenges that you're experiencing as when it comes to achieving those goals? So whatever you put into the chat box for your goals, what are some of the things that might be challenging for you that might seem to be getting in your way? So as you're putting those into chat, I remember having this discussion with the principals and the lead teachers at the schools. And this is one of the posters that they created in the leadership workshop. And some of the challenges that we don't necessarily see in the United States, like shortage of water, early marriages and unwanted pregnancies, the long distances from home to school. I love the wild animals and elephants, the danger of even getting to school through the wilderness, etc. So these were some of the challenges that they addressed in some of the goals that they wanted to achieve in their schools. So what are some of the challenges that that are making it more difficult for you maybe to achieve your goals, that might be getting in the way? So I'm starting to see more and more of the goals come in. So if you go ahead and read some of the others, these are awesome to see. Reaching over 90 girls in the course of the next week. Become an accountant who will serve my country more than I do now. I love that. And the more that we can have goals that are tied to our core purpose, the more likely we're going to be to achieve them, because that motivation will stay with us longer. So if you think about what is it you want to do with your life, right, is a purpose. So my purpose is to help people to grow and develop through my teaching, my writing, my serving. That's my mission in life. And then my goals are all tied to that. So one of the things I see, Bernard, thank you for sharing that the competitive environment, and that's something in Kenya that I've been reading about, is very, very difficult, that you do have an extremely competitive environment. There's not enough jobs for all the people that are graduating from school. Any other challenges? Yeah, Alex is again sharing that same thing about the challenges being the competition in the job market. And I'll keep looking and see what other challenges come in. So when it comes to overcoming those challenges, there is a fundamental mindset or belief that we need to have, and that is that we always have choice. So no matter what the situation is, no matter what the challenge is, we have choice as to how to deal with that challenge. And there are three basic choices. The first one is to influence the situation. So let's say, for example, that I am graduating from the university, I am not finding jobs, so what can I do to influence that, right? So I certainly can do some of the basics of working on a very strong resume, of maybe looking for some internships where I can gain some experience, of creating networking connections, going to networking meetings, attending something like this, anything that you can do to get yourself out there, get yourself seen and known, be active. I don't know if Kenya is using tools like LinkedIn, where you can post yourself and really start sharing information and posting things, create a blog, whatever you can do to influence your situation. That's the most important thing that you can do. If you've tried to influence and it's not working, you have two other choices. You can accept the situation, but if you accept the situation, that means you're giving try later to influence again. But the third option we have is to remove ourselves from the situation. Now, that's not always possible. If you have a difficult child and you're trying to influence them to do something and it's not working, removal is usually not an option in that case. But in many cases in life, it is. So if you are in a, for example, I'll use a very difficult situation. If you are in a abusive relationship and you've tried to influence that to change and it's not working, I don't think acceptance is the right choice there. Removal is probably the right choice to get away from that situation. You could have the same thing with, jobs that might be corrupt, and they're asking you to do things that are corrupt. So you try to influence the situation to change. You try to make a difference, and it's not working. And so can you accept working there, or is it time to go somewhere else, considering the job market? The key is to understand that no matter what life throws at you, no matter what your situation or event is, what can you do to influence that situation to be better? If you can't influence that, can you accept it and let it go? Or is it time to move on and try something else if that's not working? Because if you choose not to do one of those things, the choice you're making is actually to be stuck. And stuck is a choice we make. It's not a circumstance that we are put in. It means we're unwilling to pay the price to either influence, accept, or remove, and we're choosing to be stuck. In the chat box, what does it feel like to be stuck? And many of you have probably experienced this in your life, where you felt like you were stuck and there's nothing you can do. And think about what happened when you were able to, get Kenya Key's help to get an education, to move on for those that wanted to into university, those that were able. For those of you that were able to find jobs, right? You overcame those challenges and didn't just stay stuck. But what's it like when you are stuck? Go ahead and put that into chat as well. I'd love to hear your thoughts about that. What is it like to be stuck? While you're doing that, I'm going to look at some of the challenges that came in. So the financial mobilization, especially, the bureaucracy that gets in the way, the monopolistic jobs, tough word there. Yeah, the COVID situation has made things very difficult, and sometimes accept is the only thing that we can do in that situation. So again, in chat, what does it feel like to be stuck and feel like you have no options? Yeah, you get frustrated and depressed. Thank you, Dennis, for sharing that. I love that transparency and openness. It's not a fun thing. Other thoughts about what it's like to be stuck? Now, I just want to, while you're typing some more things in, I just want to acknowledge that here in the United States, we have a lot more opportunities. And, when you're stuck, you have a lot more resources that you can go to get help. And so it's about identifying what are those networks, who are the people that you can go to, who can you create relationships with, what's going to help you to get unstuck. Yeah, I love that comment about, getting antsy about the future. Makes you feel suffocated, emotionally unstable. Stephen, I love that response because that's the right that you can do to influence. And I want to use Rinda, Joseph, and Brent as an example. Just think about the influence that they have had in their, what started out as a very small, what I would call a circle of influence. The circle of influence is really based on the relationships that you have, the what's called personal power, your integrity, etc. What is it that makes Brent and Rinda and Joseph so influential? So again, in chat, go ahead and put that in. So what has made them, as you've gotten to know them, you've seen them in action, what are the things that you would say make them so influential? And I know I'm making them uncomfortable right now.
Yes, you are.
But you're a good example, a good model.
Thank you.
And all of them have experienced. I was just amazed when I was there about the respect that Joseph had in the community and that Rinda and Brent had as we went from place to place, and that people would just come out of the woodwork to sing their praises.
That's nice of you.
Now look at some of those. The North Star vision, I love that, right? Based on strong principles of service. There's zeal to help, there's selflessness. They are truly, again, not meaning to embarrass them, they are truly what we would refer to as servant leaders. Their leadership style is to serve others. And that's what we want in leaders. We want leaders who know that their job is to help those that they lead become successful. That is your job as a leader. They're resilient, love that word. Focused, gave hope. And being a good role model is a really important part, that they not only have that vision and that sense of purpose and strong values, but then they model that in their behavior as well. Always ready to help those in need and help me to realize my dreams. So as you think about that, I want to share with you a model, a trust model that we've developed in my company, that if I'm to be seen as if I'm going to be influential, I need to be seen as trustworthy. And to be seen as trustworthy, I need to demonstrate all of these characteristics. The first one is I need to demonstrate what we call ableness or competence. So I need to be able to develop competence in whatever my chosen field is. I need to look for opportunities to continue to grow and to be able to generate results through my competence. I need to be seen as effective in what I'm doing. So if you see me as someone who is able, you'll have more trust in me and you'll probably give me more influence. But I also need to be believable. And this is one of the ones that if I'm not believable, all the other ones together won't count for anything. If I am not an honest person, if I don't have clear values that drive my behavior, if I'm not seen as fair in the way that I treat others and opportunities. And Mark, we're getting a lot of background. I don't know if you want to go ahead and see where you can mute on that. So I need to be believable and act with integrity. But I also need to show, you need to feel that I care about you. And think about, again, Joseph, Rinda, and Brent. You know that they care. This word benevolence is really just a sense of goodness, that there's a sense of goodness that's coming from them. There's open communication and dialogue, and there's a sense of rapport and trust that's built in the relationship. So you feel connected to them. And then the last one is dependable. And that is that I follow through on my commitments. You can count on me. If I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. I'm responsive to your needs. So when you ask for something, I respond quickly and I help. So as you think about yourself, and if you want to be an influencer, if you want to have influence, you want to achieve your goals, one of the most important things that you can do is work on your trustworthiness. I'm not going to ask you to share this in the chat, but I'd just like you to think about where in these 4 areas might you be lacking, and where might you want to put some more of your energy and focus to make sure that you are acting in a way where you are seen as trustworthy. Because again, if you go back to what Joseph and Rinda and Brent have accomplished, it's because of their trustworthiness that they were able to open doors, that they were able to have the influence that they've been able to have. I'm going to go ahead and skip the video because I think I covered everything in there. So again, I'm not going to ask you to put this in chat. I know I have that on the screen, but what are you committed to doing? Although if you want to share, you can. So again, when you think about, when we want to have behavior change, if we're willing to share that with others and be open and transparent, others can help us to make the changes that we want to make. So if you want to share, feel free to. But think about, what are you committed to doing that's going to build trust in your key relationships? Do you need to work on your competence to develop more expertise? Do more volunteering to get a chance to practice, build that connection? And then do you need to work on being dependable, where you are reliable, people can count on you, they know you're going to follow through? Thank you, Esther, for sharing that. So one of the things that you can do to become more trustworthy is to acquire new skills. I love that. Perfect them and be confident. And the only way that you can get that is to practice and apply. Love that. Thank you. If anybody else wants to share. So as you think about, overcoming your challenges and achieving your goals, the first thing we have to have is clear goals. We have to know what it is we want to achieve. We have to be very specific, and we need to write them down, and we need to set a date. And then we go and we act toward those goals. And when we experience challenges, we look at what are all the different ways that we can influence. And what's really great is when you focus on influencing, when you focus on building trustworthy relationships, your ability to influence continues to grow. So as you focus not on what you're stuck and what you can't do, oh, if only the government would do this, if only, COVID was over, but instead focus, what can I do right now to make a difference? What can I do to influence others? What can I do to build relationships, to build my networks? As you start to do that, you're going to see your influence continue to grow until you are leading an organization that is sponsoring hundreds of students all over Kenya, and growing, not only with those students, but also making a difference with their lives and what they're doing in their communities and giving back. And one of my favorite examples is how many of you have been helping your brothers and sisters and be able to help them get the education that they need to be able to do something. Couple other comments that are in there. I just love this, believing in yourself, that willingness to go the extra mile. Salim, wonderful. Never disappoint whoever you get a chance to, whenever you get a chance to do something for someone. Yeah, aim higher. Learn what others need and how can you support and help those needs. Now focus ahead and press on. Believe in yourself. All wonderful things to do to become more influential. At this point, you'll see this is the picture of the first group of graduates from Kenya Keys. We're there when I was visiting in 2010. So some of you might be in this picture. I recognize a couple of the faces in the group. So I'm curious as to what questions you might have as we think about this or anything else as we are reaching the end of our time together. So go ahead and put any questions that you might have in chat. And Joseph or Brent or Rinder or Mark, if you have any questions as well. Thank you, Mark, for putting that in for people. So if I feel stuck, what's the first step that I should take? And it's really political situation in Kenya. If it's, I'm not sure where things are right now, but what's the smallest thing you can do is make sure that you be informed and vote, right? So really focusing on what's the smallest thing you might do to be able to influence in a small way, and then build on that and really focus on what can I do, not what's keeping me from being able to achieve my goals. So how do I overcome depression? I don't have an easy answer to that. uh, for me, keeping commitments to myself is one of the most important things that I can do to overcome depression. And even that's something as small as, making my bed in the morning. Having setting small goals that you can win and feel successful about. Getting outside and walking a few miles each day or something like that. Just setting small goals that are going to help you to be able to do that. This question about how to handle job market competition. What I would say, and again, not knowing the Kenya market as well as the people that are there, I think the most important thing that you can do is be able to network and be able to build relationships, get involved in whatever your profession is that you want to go into, get involved in any associations, any any volunteering that you can do, anything that you can do to get yourself known, get yourself seen, I think is one of the best things you can do to overcome the market competition. And Stephen, stigmatization, if I'm reading that correctly, and you can change this in chat if this is not the right question, but I'm thinking that you're talking about if people see me a certain way, and how do I overcome that if they see me a certain way? The first thing is we have to see ourselves differently first, right? So that whole idea of improving myself in the areas that I need to improve, seeing myself differently, but then also it takes time and it takes uh, effort and energy in building those relationships, building the trust, especially if you've done something that might have caused people to not trust you. Then it takes much longer to overcome that. And the first thing we need to do is apologize and then ask what can we do to overcome and to make this different, to make it work. But realize it may take years sometimes with people that have a negative opinion about you. So how do I deal with over expectation from society, especially after attaining higher education? Um, whew, the eh, I don't know if I'm going to read this one correctly, but I'll answer it in what I'm thinking. I'm reading into it. Is that I think spending time working on my skills and trying to again find opportunities where I can practice those skills and use those skills, even if it's in a volunteer situation, so that I can raise my own expectations and raise my attainment ability. And with stress and high expectations, these are all really tough questions. Um, my counsel would be to, so let me just share what I've done that's helped me in my life. And I I had a period where I was a young father with 5 small children. I was trying to finish my undergraduate degree. We had 3 children at the time, and we had a fourth while I was in school. I was working full time, going to school full time, trying to be a good father and husband, serve in my church, and I was overwhelmed and just really struggling. And I happened to go to a workshop on time and life management that really helped me to see things differently. And what I did is I looked at my life in a series of roles. And so I'm a father, I'm a husband, I'm a leader at church, I'm a student, whatever my job was at the time, right? And then I wrote a statement of who I would want to be if somebody were to be speaking at my funeral 50 years from now. What would I want them to say about me in each of those roles? And I wrote that down. Here's the person I want to be as a father. Here's who I want to be as a husband. And then every Sunday morning, I would review that. And I would look at my week and I say, okay, what am I going to do to get closer to being that person I want to be as a father? What do I want to focus on this week? And maybe it's just, playing with my children more. Maybe it's listening to my wife better. What do I want to focus on this week? And keep it small, right? Just what are these small things that I can do each week to make myself better? And a year from now, I'll be better and I'll be different. And it's really, I think that to me, as I was getting those small wins, and then forgiving myself when I make mistakes. I'm certainly far from perfect, and I have many people that would tell you that. And so forgiving myself and asking forgiveness as needed, I think is an important part of that. Yeah, balance patience and on goals. Again, your situation is much more difficult than anything that I have faced in my life. I'm 100% sure of that. And so, being patient in the achieving of your goals, I would say for me, my spirituality, my faith is what gives me that peace that can come through that. For me, that's the only thing that's really worked for me. The culture and gender issues, again, these are you're putting like societal problems out there that are, things that I think this group is part of what's going to change those cultural things. As you probably know, we're having some really difficult cultural battles going on in the United States right now. And I won't say anything politically in case anybody from the United States might disagree with me, but we we have years of racism that still exists, that we're better than we were, but we're not where we need to be. And it's got to start with the young people. And we're seeing more people getting involved, more people putting their voice out there, being willing to make a difference. Yeah, wow. I'm just going to answer a couple more here that I think. So dealing with very little income, I have no good answers. Um, the I remember, I've not been, well off my whole life, and came from a family that in the United States comparatively did not have much, but it doesn't even compare remotely. Um, but I know my mother was a single mom with 4 small children and made the most of her meager income, and did everything she could to provide food on the table. And again, I don't have any. Just wish I had answers for those kinds of things. Um, but I want to kind of close with this last question from Bernard about, how do I operate my duties that in a profession maybe that people think of differently. And I had a friend who was an accountant and was working for a company that was dishonest, and he found out about it and surfaced that and got fired. And he lost his job because he was not willing to do that. And that's not the norm in the United States, but he was willing to make that stand. But then you have to balance that with the need to make an income and those kinds of things. But I think it's modeling and setting an example and being out there and sharing the difference that can be had when we are honest and we are always doing the best for our clients. The more that you can promote that, I think no matter what your career is, the more that you can promote a different way of being, that I'm here to serve, I'm here to help, I'm here to make a difference. And despite my profession, whatever that might look like out there in the real world, I'm going to put myself and my faith and let that guide how I work and how I live my life. So yes, Salim, thank you for sharing that as well. Wow, these are really, really, really tough questions. Brent, Rinda, Joseph, Mark, I'll turn it back over to the group of you.
Well, thank you, John, so much for that inspiring presentation. I've learned from that, and also given me a chance to reflect and think about my goals and how I respond to challenges. So I just want to say thank you for sharing your expertise, your life experiences, your professional experiences with us. I walk away better prepared for the future, thanks to you tonight. So thank you for sharing that message.
You're welcome.
We hope to continue to do these once a month, and so watch for additional invitations. We'll hope to have presenters from Kenya, presenters from the United States, alumni, folks working, maybe folks that are still in school who can teach us and help us learn, but we hope to have a diverse group of presenters to share information and help us learn and grow in the process. I'm honored to participate and just want to say thank you to all of you. As John said at the beginning of this call, if you held a Saturday 7 a.m. phone call in the United States, nobody would show up. So thank you for your diligence to rise and shine. As Joseph said, the early bird gets the worm. You will be blessed and strengthened for having been here today. Of that I'm positive.
Mark,
John.
Mark, I just want to say one other thing, because I think this just came to me and I think it's important, is that one of probably the best things that you can do in the answering of these questions is to be discussing them with each other and to really share using using WhatsApp app, I think it is, share your questions and concerns and get counsel from each other and be asking each other, what can I do to influence this? And I love that from John, start small and be disciplined, in anything that you do, but really share these struggles with each other and find out what others have been doing.
Yeah.
Thank you, John. I see a question from Brent and Rinda about would it be possible, John, for your slides to be shared with the group? Is that a possibility?
Yeah.
We'll make those available to the group, and we've also recorded the presentation with John's permission. And so we'll be able to post that for anyone who would like to review it again in the future. And anyone who is unable to attend can review that as well. So we'll work to get it presented in a place where anyone can access it going forward. But I'll say thank you and then pass the time over to Joseph to close out, and then maybe Brett and Rinda for a final word. But Joseph, I'll pass it to you for any final words you'd like to share with the group, and then maybe Brett and Rinda can close us out.
Thank you, Mark. First and foremost, I want to thank John for his presentation. It reminds me of those early years when Kenya Kids was coming up. The photos you have seen, especially the last one with questions and answers, reminds me it has 4 teachers within them and 2 accountants and some mothers within it. It's so great that we have been able to move from all that far to where we are today. And it's also an inspiration to the students themselves, because some of the students who have participated today and were there during the formation of Kenya Kids have witnessed a transformation from that time to today. So it's a reality kind of presentation to the students. So thank you very much. And also I want to thank the students for finding time to connect. It's the first time and you have done well, and we hope we'll be able to be much smarter the next time. As you have said earlier, for those who are coming probably late, you will be doing it once per month, the last Saturday of the month. Or probably where it cannot happen, you'll have to tentatively change the date. And we also welcome John probably to look for more other speakers from different topics for us in the US. And also we are doing the same here in Kenya. At one time we might have a speaker from Kenya. And that's the way to go. So thank you, Mark, and everybody.
Yeah, I'd like to just say a few words in closing. This has been great, John, and I think it's gotten everybody thinking about some things. I will say, after the years of working with you students, when you talk about your challenges, having seen this firsthand and being in touch with many of you on a regular basis, your challenges are beyond anything really we can imagine. And but there are some ways in which we can relate. And when you talk about expectation being so high on you and the stress that that creates, that is something we can relate to. And it can get overwhelming. And I have seen that you as students, your families have huge expectations on you before you have even finished your own education. I know, Emmanuel, talking to you about this years ago, and from many of you, I have heard that family members are just expecting you to help take care of them and provide this and that for them, even before you were able to do that for yourself. And that is a tremendous amount of stress that is on you. And sometimes I feel that same stress and expectation, because we've started something beautiful and we want to see it continue, but sometimes the load of that expectation and wanting to keep so many students in school, it is something that we feel too. And when I start feeling that, what I have to do sometimes is just break down, and I do this in a prayerful way, say, what is the next step I can do and what are my boundaries? I need to determine what the boundaries are because the need is endless. What is a healthy boundary I can establish, and can I communicate it with compassion and also with firmness? Because if we cannot do that, we're never, ever, ever going to feel like we are meeting expectations upon ourselves and that others are putting on us. And I think if we allow that and we communicate it well, that's the only thing I can suggest. Sometimes it helps me to say, this is the way I express it. I don't have enough bandwidth. And you know what I mean by bandwidth. When you've extended how many people, what can a bandwidth carry? My brain, my heart, my time, my talents, there is a point where there is no more I can do. And again, like John has suggested, if you just with confidence say to yourself, I'm doing the best I can, and I know that. And that's the only thing I can say that maybe we could share that might be of some good to you, is think about your boundaries. When you're setting your goals, also say, and what are my boundaries going to be? Maybe they be healthy ones, and maybe I can extend them as I become more proficient at certain things. But don't be afraid to set them and to communicate them. That is one thing that I would say that can be really helpful. Do you have anything you wanted to add?
It's been a glorious presentation, John and Mark, and we felt, as I've read through this, the chat room, the chat comments, I just felt your spirits so deeply in my heart that you truly are the leaders of Kenya now, each in your own role, each in your own sphere of influence, circle of influence. Realize that we are so tremendously proud of you in your efforts to extend yourself to make a difference in your sphere, in your circle of influence, in your family, in your community, and even so far as even running for office for the county assembly. I saw that one goal, I can't remember who it was, set to in 2022 to be by for the county assembly. That just touches me so deeply. I applaud you. Thank you very much.
You're amazing, you guys. Your challenges are huge. You're amazing. And Mark, we welcome you as our young new blood. Aren't we grateful to have this fine young man? Gosh, we're proud of him.
Thank you, Renda, so much. Thank you all for joining us. Please watch for additional messages for future events like this, and also watch for a posting of the video if you'd like to review it, and the slide presentation from John Hester. Maybe if we could all give John a round of applause and a thank you from a long distance. Thank you, John, for your presentation this evening. We appreciate it. We wish everyone a wonderful Saturday and a wonderful Sunday. And thank you for your leadership and example for all of us associated with Kenya Keys. Keep up the great work. We love you and take care. Good night.
Bye, everybody.